everyone, and welcome back to the 30-Day Summit, where Russell Brunson has brought together a collection of his top 2 Comma Club and 8-figure award winners, sharing with you how they would literally survive and begin to rebuild their business in just 30 days if they lost it all. My name is Bailey Richard, and I'm delighted to bring to you right now a conversation with John Lee Dumas. He's the host of Entrepreneurs on Fire, an award-winning podcast where he interviews inspiring entrepreneurs every Monday and drops value bombs every Thursday. With over 2,000 episodes, 1.3 million listens every single month, and 7 figures of annual revenue, JLD is just getting started. So John, welcome to the summit.
Bailey, I'm fired up to be here, down here in Puerto Rico. We got some humidity, so let's bring the heat.
Fantastic. All right. So as I was reading over your 30-day plan, I couldn't help but notice that the themes of getting away from technology to get clarity, taking long walks, and even meditation are an important part of your process. Even from day 1, which you've deemed a day of reflection, this is something that you think is critical to your success. So I'm curious to learn a little bit more about why this is so important to you and exactly how you go through your process. Are there any apps, guides, tools, or resources that you use you can recommend to us as well?
It's critical. I mean, we live in such a busy world. We have our phones going off, our desktop notifications going off. People, are screaming at us from down the hall. I mean, we just have all of these distractions that we literally have become such a world of shallow thinkers. And, not to go too deep into health, but, over the years, like we've all developed to be very shallow breathers, chest breathers. We've also developed into being very shallow thinkers. We never do this deep thinking. And I can promise you that every single one of my big ideas has come from really taking the time to think deeply, to disengaging myself from these little pings and zaps and zoops and whatever they might be, and just giving myself this time and this opportunity to breathe, to think, to let my mind wander, to not always get distracted. It's just like this constant tugging at our conscious and subconscious. Like, it's not shocking that nobody's ever come up with an original idea and we're just all copying each other. So, I mean, to this date, when you and I are talking, I've actually created 4 completely unique multi-million-dollar ideas. And every one of those ideas that I've turned into 7 figures and more has been from a situation where I've withdrawn from society and I've withdrawn from the day-to-day. Like, not for months at a time. I'm not doing like a Julia Roberts Eat, Pray, Love scenario. I'm not being like David Thoreau on Walden Pond and going there for however long he was, months or years, to write a book. Like, I'm talking about, I'm taking a day. I'm taking 2 days. And I'm just going, code silent. I'm taking walks, out here. And, we have this beautiful rainforest walk. I'm sitting by my pool with nothing around me except maybe a print magazine when I just want to relax. And I'm just thinking. I like to have a piece of paper as well, a little blank journal. So if I want to jot something down that's coming to my mind, I am, but I'm not even going over the board with that. So just giving ourselves the time to pull out of this loud, noisy, busy, crazy world and just let our mind do what it does best. But by the way, it struggles doing that when we don't have that time, but it does it best when we give it that time to do some deep thinking. So it's like some tools and some apps that I love to do that. Again, it's tough to say an app because I am completely disconnected during this time. It's not like specifically using an app, but a tool that I like to use is like a journal, a blank journal, or maybe some of the other great journals that are out there on the market that, will guide you in the physical form. So like a physical journal that you can write in that will guide you into some legitimate thinking exercises. So for me, that was absolutely critical for all 4 of those stages of going really big, again, into the 2 Comma Club with each one of those separate ideas. The birth of that idea came from taking a step back. And I think that's key.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to be talking a lot more about this concept of your big idea later in the interview. So I'm sure we'll return to that. But I did want to ask you about something else you said you would do from the very beginning, from day 1, which is to read a book, but not just any book, a very particular book, The One Thing by Gary Keller. For those in our audience who are unfamiliar with that particular book, would you be willing to tell us a little bit more about what it's about, and then also why this is so important for you to begin reading from day 1?
So if anybody has listened to my podcast, Entrepreneurs on Fire, they know a couple things. Number 1, I love quotes. Number 2, I love acronyms. And one of my favorite acronyms is actually the acronym for the word focus. Follow one course until success. And as soon as I saw the book, The One Thing, come out, which was a number of years ago, I said, that book has an opportunity and potential to be something special. But, I'd never read it before, so I wasn't sure. And I went ahead and I read it, and I just couldn't stop reading because I'm like, everything that I believe in, this guy, Gary Keller and Jay Papasan are talking about in the book, the one thing about how, nobody who's ever created, something amazing has done so while they were doing 10 other things. They've always just gone laser focused. They weren't going 1 mile wide and 1 inch deep. They were going 1 inch wide and 1 mile deep down into this incredible niche where they were building something special. And they were focusing on that one thing. And it kind of goes back to where we were talking about with the day to day and there's so many distractions. Like we have so many distractions and we're focused on a lot of things. We're not going to do any of those things great. We might do some of them good, some of them okay, and some of them crappy, but we're not going to do any of them great. Like we have this opportunity to just do one thing great. And I've done that. And by the way, you don't stop at that one thing. Once you've got it great, you can kind of check the block, have the system, hire the people, and then move on to the next thing. As I mentioned earlier, I now have created over four specific, soon to be 5, 7-figure ideas by focusing on singularly that one thing at a time. So that book to me is one book that I go back to over and over again because it just really speaks volumes and takes me back to why that's so important, why that focus, why that just putting those blinders on and not letting distraction take you over. And so I think that especially the beginning part of the journey, because I don't have, you do it every single day over the 30 days. I just have the first number of days, like 6 or 8 days. I want you to be ending your day with that book because it's going to bring you to the core of why focus and following one course until success is so important.
Mm-hmm. And those people who were at Funnel Hacking Live this year might even remember Russell talking about how after he started his first business, then he thought to bring in more revenue, he needed to start a second one. But at that point, his focus was being split. So when his second business started to grow, then the first business started to fall. And ultimately, he wasn't able to achieve those goals whenever his focus was split between the two things. And that's why he's always telling us, focus in on your one funnel. You're only one funnel away and figure out what that one thing is that you're going to really put all of your effort into to achieve that 2 Comma Club success.
Yeah, then he went on to say that he decided to go crazy and launch 17 businesses at once, and then they all failed. Shocker. And that's Russell Brunson, a guy that has been successful and knows what success is and has the finances and the team, the understanding, and he still couldn't do it. So if he can't do it, like, who can? The answer is nobody, so don't even try.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Okay, so let's dive a little bit further in on this then, this concept of your big idea. Sitting here, I think it's so easy to just talk about it, but the reality is that this is something that so many entrepreneurs struggle with. Not just the process of finding your big idea, but then also, I think, knowing when it is that you found that idea that you need to be putting all of your effort into. In your 30-day plan, you even mentioned seeking feedback from other people about your idea, but at the same time, not letting them sway you from your resolve to make that idea work. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your opinion on this process of finding your big idea.
Yeah. So, a lot of people have definitely heard, of the whole lean startup process and how you really want to start with that MVP, that minimally viable product. And a lot of us just focus on this silo. So, we come up with this idea, we just go in this silo, we go into a closet, we shut the door, and we just work on the thing. We think it's going to be the next best thing. And maybe it is, and it would be, and it will be. But the problem is you're just getting no feedback along the way. And that's why when I got to that part in my 30 days, I really wanted to focus on engaging with other people and bringing them into the process earlier, sooner than later, so that they could give their initial feedback and say, hey, this is what I like about this. This is what I don't like. This is what I get. This is what I don't get. I've had some things where I've launched and people have been like, I just don't understand this thing. But I'm like, but it's so obvious. But it's so obvious to me because I have the curse of knowledge because I know that thing. And to them, it's just not obvious because they don't know. And so then I realized I had to go back and create an understanding, like a bridge, so people could get there and so they could make that stuff happen. So I think the biggest mistake people make across the board is they just silo themselves. They don't get out there and find their avatars, which are that one perfect listener or viewer or customer or client, whatever that might be, and actually have real conversations with them. So the quicker that you can get this content out there to the right people who are going to become your potential customers, clients, listeners, viewers, whatever that might be, the better. Get that feedback, implement it, adjust, pivot, tweak. And so then you're doing this along the way. You're kind of jumping off that cliff. You're building your plane as you fall, instead of falling, all the way to the ground and then saying, okay, I just, broke every bone in my body. Now let's build a plane. Like, it's too late. Like, do it on the way down.
Mm-hmm. Now, you just mentioned the word avatar there. In your 30-day plan, you spend a significant amount of week 2 talking about this concept of avatar. So I was wondering if you could give us a firm definition of what avatar is for those who might have missed it in your last response, but then also let us know, after you've figured out who your avatar is and you've really centered in on that person, what is it that you're supposed to be doing, with this avatar?
Avatar is by far the most important step of the process. You can't do it right away because you don't know what you don't know yet. But by week 2, you do. You know who your client should be and who you want your client to be, and your customer, and whoever that perfect person entering your funnel is going to be. And that's your avatar. Your avatar is that one perfect individual. Like, you got to fill in the blank. If you have a podcast, it's the one perfect listener. If you have a YouTube channel, it's the one perfect viewer. If you have a funnel for a skincare product, it's that one person, perfect client for your skincare product. You need to sit down and literally write 500, 1,000, 2,000, until you know that you are done inside and out understanding who this person is, and write that out on a piece of paper, work on that, continue to mold who that perfect avatar is. And I didn't have that avatar when I launched my podcast back in the day, Entrepreneurs on Fire, and I paid for it because I would come to a fork in the road and I would say, should I do this or should I do that? And then I was making the decision, and I was making some of the wrong decisions because I wasn't the perfect listener for my podcast. I was the host. I was creating the show. I was already at a different level, a different stage, a different mindset than my perfect listener was. So I'm making decisions based off of what I thought was right. But again, it doesn't matter what I thought was right. It matters what my listeners thought was right. When I sat down and actually created who that perfect avatar was, that one singular perfect listener, it changed everything. It was like Atlas taking the weight of the world off of my shoulders, putting it onto my avatar, who's a fake person anyway, so he can handle it, and just say, okay, now you make those decisions. I'm at a fork in the road. Should I go left? Should I go right? So real quick, here's an example of what an avatar should look like. My avatar's name is Jimmy. He's 38 years old. He has a wife and 2 kids, ages 3 and 5. Jimmy drives to work by himself every single day. It's a 25-minute commute to work. He sits in a cubicle at a job he doesn't like for 9 hours. And then he drives home, gets stuck in 10 minutes of traffic. So it takes him 35 minutes to get home. Gets home, he plays with his kids, has dinner with his family, hangs out with his wife, puts his kids to bed. Then he has a little pity party at the end of the night saying, why do I spend all of my waking hours doing things I don't enjoy doing, or at least 90% of those waking hours? I don't enjoy driving to work and sitting in a cubicle at a job I don't like and driving home, getting stuck in traffic. I only spend 10% of my entire life doing what I love, like spending time with my kids, with my wife, with my family. What is going on with my world? Jimmy is my avatar. I created Entrepreneurs on Fire for him so that when he's driving during that 25-minute commute to work, he should be listening to my guests drop value bombs so that he can learn and educate himself and get better. When he's driving home, he should be educating himself with my interviews and with my Q&A sessions that I do every Monday and Thursday. And then at the end of the night, instead of having a little pity party for himself, feeling bad, he should be continuing to listen to the show and to educate himself and to learn what he can do to get out of that 90% of crap that he doesn't enjoy doing. And so that now, again, when I get to a fork in the road, I don't say, what would JLD do? I say, what would Jimmy do? And I listen to my avatar, and I know my avatar, and I'm able to guide my business because of that. So when you get your avatar right, it makes every other part of your business so much easier.
Yeah, I think a lot of people really tend to struggle with this avatar exercise because they get so hung up on those demographics, trying to figure out what age is my ideal avatar, are they male or female, what kind of job do they have? But what I'm hearing from you is that what we really need to be focused in on is that main problem or those main struggles that everyone in our audience is dealing with, because in your podcast, you have listeners, if Jimmy's 38 years old, they might be older or younger than 38, they might be females instead of men, and they might have all different sorts of jobs. And so it's really more important to focus in on that common problem or struggle. That's a common theme that I'm hearing here.
It is definitely a common fear as well for people to say, I don't want to like just niche myself into this one listener, because then, what about all these other people, like you, like an 87-year-old grandmother that listens to my show? Like, I want her to be able to. And that's not the point. The point is you're going to create the best show for your best listener. And that's going to allow you to create the best show that you can create. And that's going to attract all kinds of people because it's going to be a great show. So you can't be worried about it. That's that North Star that's guiding you towards, what is going to be the best. It's not the end all be all, but you need to have that focus. Otherwise, you just have no direction whatsoever.
Absolutely. Okay, I'd like to keep moving on in your 30-day plan to day 14, where you mentioned this concept of value ladder for the very first time. And one of the things that you say you would do is to start a free Facebook group. So I'm curious as to why you would choose Facebook over so many other platforms out there where you could form a group or a community. But then also, do you really think it's necessary that every single person, who's listening to us right now starts a Facebook group?
So first and foremost, I think anybody that's looking to start a movement, like grow a tribe, like have a place where there's going to be meaningful interactions, should definitely start a Facebook group. And that might change a year from now or 5 years from now. I'm not about Facebook because Facebook's great. I'm about Facebook because most people are on Facebook now. Most people are there every single day interacting in some way, shape, or form. If 2 years, 4 years from now, that's something else like Instagram or Snapchat or, some other, product that's come out or some other platform, then that's where I would be. I'm all about where the attention is, but the attention is at Facebook right now. They've just created this incredible opportunity for you to very easily create a free group and then start inviting people to this free group that makes sense because they're your avatars. And then guess what? When those avatars are in your free group, they're at those avatars' friends, who, by the way, are probably pretty similar to them because we hang out with similar people, will say, oh, Bailey's in this group. Oh, Bailey's in a group, called Your Big Idea. Like, that sounds like an interesting Facebook group. Let me jump into that to see what's going on. Then your friend joins and your friend's friend joins. And then before you know it, you're getting all these requests from all these people that all comes from that exponential growth. And then every time you post something or you tag somebody or you respond to a comment, now, boom, they get a little notification in the upper right-hand corner that says, Bailey commented on this comment that you're tagged in XYZ. And so it just is always encouraging this incredible conversation of people that are in there, that are asking questions, that are giving support, giving guidance, and they're there. They're already there. So you're just taking down that barrier of them having to think of your website or think of your forum and then go there and log in and find out that there's nothing interesting there right now, and then being like, I'm never going back there again, to, oh, wow, yeah, like there's things going on in this group right now that I joined the other week. Let me investigate this a little bit. Then before they know, they're like, wow, this is a really great community. There's a lot of great conversations going in here. John's doing a Facebook Live just for people in the group, and he's answering people's questions because you can now do that in Facebook. John's dropping files and sharing, templates and doing all these different things in this Facebook group. This is a really incredible place to get value and to interact and engage with people who are like-minded, who are avatars like me. And Facebook just allows you to have that groundswell so fast and so quick, and then it just grows exponentially from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And from a high level perspective, I imagine that having a group is also going to provide a certain level of social proof as well. Because when somebody finds your podcast for the very first time on iTunes, they have no idea that it's getting 1.3 million listens a month. But when they see many other people interacting in your community, that brings some legitimacy to this movement that you've created. It's something that can say, oh, well, I see tons of people interacting with this. I'm not the only one. Maybe this is something that I should be paying attention to here.
Yeah, people always want to be involved in a conversation that's happening. Nobody wants to be the only person in the room. So when they see that, hey, this is happening, this is hip, this is hot right now, that makes all the difference in the world.
Mm-hmm. Now, in your plan, you actually also do mention that the Facebook group can be a great way to eventually funnel people into your product suite and unpaid value ladder. Does that play a role as well?
Absolutely, because here you are now, you have this hopefully growing and really engaged and active community that you're giving value to. So this person may not know you from Adam or Eve, from day one, but here you are, you're in this Facebook group and you're answering their questions, they're getting to know you. Maybe you're posting a link of your most recent podcast, like, hey guys, like here's a podcast that I just released. I think it'd be really relevant to everybody in this group because this is why you're in the group. This group is about big ideas. I did a whole podcast about how to create, how to find your big idea in 3 hours. Like, come check check it out. And then they listen to your podcast. Now they're subscribed to your podcast. And then you're able just to kind of give like this social proof, and you're able to add more value from different areas. And you're building that know, like, and trust. And you're going to get to a point where, you're answering questions, you're doing this and that. And someone's going to be like, hey, John, like, I would really love if, you talk about, how important it is to have a funnel. Like, I would really love if you could, come in and like study my funnel, tell me what I'm doing wrong, tell me what I'm doing right, and like help me tweak things. I'm like, well, listen, Bailey, that's a really important thing that you have that dialed in. Frankly, like, that's going to take a lot of time, a lot of one-on-one. So I do have a coaching package. If you want to buy one of my coaching packages, like, here's the link. And you can buy, an hour, 10 hours, 20 hours of my time. Or maybe I have a paid mastermind where I actually, people that are in that one, I do go in and I answer questions. So here's the link, to my paid Facebook group that, you have to actually be paying $25, $50, $1,000 a month to be a part of, like, whatever your number is. And those type of questions I answer in depth, and I will go to your funnel, and other people will go, and I bring in guests, and I do these other things. So now you're able to just like really have these warm leads that you've been adding value to, that know, like, and trust you. Some of them are going to want more at some stage, and that's a great way for you to, bring them up that ladder.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, I'd like to move on to week 3 now in your 30-day plan, where you spend a lot of time talking about your connections with other people. Whether it's finding a mentor, building a team, or just surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals. You quote Jim Rohn, that famous quote about you are the average of the 5 people you spend your most time around. And one of the things that you say you would do is to start a mastermind, to start and participate in a small group of individuals, providing accountability to one another. So I would love to know from you what you believe the benefits of participating in this mastermind are, and then what you would say to individuals who are listening to us right now who might be saying to themselves, I'm so new to my industry or to my niche. Nobody knows me. I don't really know anyone else. I wouldn't even know where to begin, putting together this, group of individuals. What would you say to them?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, this is definitely different than the paid mastermind I was referring to earlier, where like when you have a free Facebook group, you might want to bring people into a more elite premium group. That could be a paid mastermind where it could be 10, 100, 1,000 people could be in there, all paying for more of your time, your expertise, your influence, etc. This type of mastermind that I'm talking about is something where it's with your peers. So I think ideally it's 3 to 5 people total. So 3 people at a minimum, 5 people at a maximum. I honestly believe that 4 is really a perfect number, and I'll get into the reasons why in a second. But it's super important to have peers who you're meeting with on a regular basis. These peers don't have to be in the exact same industry as you. Specifically, like if I'm in podcasting, somebody's in Amazon sales, somebody's an expert with Facebook ads, whatever it might be. Like, so they don't need to be all in the same industry. And honestly, probably they shouldn't be, because that could be a big help. These are people that you know, like, and trust, that you respect, that are maybe a little bit above you or a little bit below you, but they're all like in your general area, and you know that you're all going to be able to add value to each other. Having a weekly mastermind with these people is critical, because now you have a group, again, of 3 to 5 people total, where every single week you're getting together, on a Zoom call, whatever it might be. And it's just the 3, 4, 5 of you, and everybody's going around and they're sharing a win. Like, this is what I said last week I was going to do, and I did it. And here's the proof, and this is what happened. Or this is what I said I was going to do last week, and I didn't do it. Here's why. Help me figure out why. And as everybody gets 5 minutes going around sharing that win or failure, and explaining kind of why, and then getting some feedback from the group. And then 1 person per week, which is why I think it's important to never have more than 5 people, because you want to have at least one a month, one every 5 weeks of these hot seats, where you're then for the rest of the hour, those remaining 40, 45 minutes, you're on the hot seat where you're talking about your biggest struggle in business and life right now. And the other 3, 4 people are there to listen, and then to provide you guidance, networking support, connections that could help you out, get you going there. So now you're in this community where once every month or so, you're the focus of these 3, 4 minds that are just successful entrepreneurs that are just helping you and helping guide you. And by the way, you don't want to let them down, because when we live in a silo, I can push things a week or 2, and then before I know it, I've procrastinated for 6 months. But when you say, hey, I'm going to launch a book, by Q3 of this year, and it's on a calendar, like, you're going to want to launch that book so you don't look foolish in front of your mastermind, people who you respect, and you want them to respect you. Now, places to find communities like this, and that's why Facebook groups can be so great, because like if you go find a great free Facebook group and you're interacting with people, that are avatars for that, the reason why that group was made, just like you are, you're gonna be amongst a group of peers, and you might say, hey guys, is anybody looking to form a mastermind? And it starts with one, and then that the two of you start off, and you add one other person, and then one other person. Before you know it, you have a 3, 4, or 5 person mastermind that you're meeting weekly, and you're getting all those benefits of what I just shared.
Mm-hmm. In addition to the accountability provided in that group, I wonder if there's also the opportunity for business partnerships to spawn out of those relationships as well. Maybe some affiliate relationships or some, JV partnerships. And on the tail end of that question, I'd also like to bring in a discussion about Dream 100, which is something you mentioned in your 30-day plan as well.
Yeah, so there's definitely affiliate opportunities. I mean, I've done affiliates with all of my people in the mastermind because they're friends, and I want them to win, and I want to win with them. So when I can find an opportunity where it's a win-win, I will definitely make that happen. And yeah, Dream 100 was definitely an idea that I got from Russell, because I big fan of .com secrets and expert secrets. So I read those books, promoted them heavily, and definitely saw the value of trying to build this wish list of people who I just wanted to build a closer relationship with. So again, just like when I'm looking to find a mentor, I'm looking to find somebody who's where I want to be. That's how I approach building my Dream 100. I say, you know what? These are people who are where I want to be in these different verticals. So I may say, here's 5 verticals. Like, I want to get better in Facebook advertising. I want to get better with Amazon physical products. I want to get better with podcasting. I want to get better with SEO. And I have these different verticals. And then say I have 5 different verticals that I've identified are most important to me. I'll then go and I'll list the top 20 people in each one of those verticals by, looking at things like, if they have a podcast, like how their podcast is ranked. If they have a product, like how their product is selling, and like how many live webinars are they doing? Like, how do they seem that they're out there? Where are they speaking at? Are they speaking at conferences on this topic? So are they seen as somebody that's very knowledgeable in this niche? Like, are they writing books on this topic and launching books, courses, et cetera, et cetera? So I look for all these different things that show that these people are tops in their field, and then I write their names down, and then I come up with a plan to, just be of value to them. Like, how can I be of value to them? And for me, like, a huge way that I can be of value to these people is have them on my show. I have 1.3 million listens per month on my podcast. It's a huge value to have, person X and person Y to come on my show to talk about their things. They're going to get exposed to a large audience, and now I'm building that relationship. Maybe I'm then, going and leaving an Amazon review on their book, sending a screenshot and emailing it to them and just saying, hey, I just want to let you know that I thought your book was great. Here's the review that I left. Going to their Facebook page and leaving a comment, a very thoughtful comment on a post that they made, because those things all matter, because interactions, engagements, comments, reviews, all of these things matter to the influencer, to the authority person that you're looking to become better, build a better relationship with. And so if and when you have a plan in place and are putting the time and effort into actually adding value to their world, they're going to notice, because it is adding value to their world. And when you come up in conversations, they're going to recognize the name. They're going to see that, you're a person that's continuing to add value to them. Then there's going to be a much higher opportunity that you're going to be able to work with them, instead of just being, a faceless face and a nameless name that they've never seen nor heard before.
Always giving lots of value first before you expect big things from others in return. All right, I'd love to move on to the final week of your 30-day plan, where for the very first time you actually mentioned building out your funnels only on day 24. In the plan, you mentioned that you would think of not only what kind of product that you're selling in that particular funnel, but also the avatar that you're trying to reach as well. So I'd love if you could just share a little bit about your strategy or thought process when putting your funnels together.
So this really goes back to, you don't know what you don't know. So if you start trying to build a funnel day 1 or day 10 or day 15, like, what are you building? Do you even have an audience? Do you even know your audience? Like, have you even done anything that's going to allow you to, have any success with that funnel? And again, there's nothing wrong with a funnel failing. You can learn a lot from that. But hey, if you can do it, right, or at least, pretty close to good the first time, let's do that. Because I'm a big believer that going 1,000,000 miles an hour in the wrong direction is going to take you 1,000,000 miles an hour in the wrong direction. So before we start going 1,000,000 miles an hour in the wrong direction, like, let's take the steps. Let's take those first 23 days and let's really do all the things it's going to take so that we know our avatar's biggest struggle. That's essentially, if I could boil it down in one sentence, those first 23 days are putting you in a situation where you at your core know and understand your avatar's biggest struggle. Because when you understand what your avatar's biggest struggle is, then guess what? You can create the solution for them. And that solution could be a product or a service or a community or fill in the blank. And now you have what that is. Now you built a funnel for that. Now, how do you build a funnel for that? Well, you know your avatar. So you know your avatar. You know how to get them interested with, that one great lead magnet. You know how to nurture them and warm them up with more value and webinars and masterclasses and PDFs and quizzes and these different things. And then before you know it, they've come down to this irresistible offer that's at the bottom of this funnel, and you're off to the races. So, I've created 8 fully functioning funnels, again, a number of which have made it to the 2 Comma Club, on their own merit. And every single one of them has come from me understanding at the core, what is my avatar's biggest struggle? What solution can I create for that struggle? And then going from that point forward.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you who are watching who are interested in getting a sneak peek into one of John Lee Dumas's 2 Comma Club funnels, make sure that you upgrade to Funnel University, because right after this interview, I'm going to be recording an interview with John where we're actually going to be going inside of his ClickFunnels account, and he's going to be showing you via a screen share how he set up one of his award-winning 2 Comma Club funnels. And that exclusive content is only available inside Funnel University, so you're definitely going to want to make sure that you check that out. Now, John, to wrap things up on this interview, I would love to ask you one more question, which is actually finally about podcasting. You don't mention setting up your podcast until day 30 of your 30-day plan. And I think that might surprise a lot of people, given that you are known as being a podcast host. So I'd love if you could share with our audience why creating your podcast falls at this point in your 30-day plan, and if you'd like to share any tips or information about that with us.
It's all about building the foundation. We can build these castles on sand and then it's just going to collapse before us. So if you rush to create a podcast too early in the game, just like with your funnel, you're not going to know the right content to create. You're not going to make it a good podcast. You're going to be cutting corners. Your avatars are going to listen and they're going to be like, well, this isn't for me, because you didn't make it for them. You didn't know the value proposition to the point where you could really create that great podcast, that great piece of value that you can turn into an audio form. And so for me, I would just want to have my head down for those first 29 days. I would want to be doing the things that I have listed out in those 30 days. I would want to be, really intimately getting to know who my avatar was, understanding their problems, their pain points, where they are, building a community around that, adding more value to them, looking for different ways to understand what their biggest struggle is, and then create that funnel from that. And so then when I launch a podcast, guess what? Now I have a community, within that free Facebook group. Now I understand their biggest struggle so that I can use the call to action of hey, if you're looking to find your big idea, go to xyz.com. And I can use that in my intro and my outro to drive people towards, the free training lead magnet that I want to have people go towards to get them into that funnel. But if I just start haphazardly with a podcast, the content's not going to be good. I'm going to have no call to action. I'm going to have no foundation of actually having people being able to take those leads and turn them into something meaningful. And again, those first, 100, 200,000 listens are going to potentially be your most valuable, because those are going to be just the people who are your avatars. So have that process in place before you launch something like that. And again, having that free Facebook group so that you can really get a groundswell early on is just going to drive more traffic to the podcast at the beginning, which can then really boost it when it launches. You can really have a very successful launch that can really get that momentum going, instead of just kind of having just hey, I have a podcast, and then it's crickets, because you don't have an audience. You don't have a direction. You don't really know what you're doing yet. So all in good time.
Absolutely. At Funnel Hacking Live, I remember Russell talking about building up pressure behind your funnel before it's released. So I imagine it's a similar case here with your podcast.
Yes.
John, thank you so much for being a part of this summit and sharing all of this incredible value with us today. For those of you watching at home who feel like you are ready to embark on your own 30-day path to success, I have amazing news for you. It's called the One Funnel Away Challenge, and you can click on the button on this page to learn more and upgrade today for your opportunity to create your own customized and personalized 30-day plan to getting that next award-winning funnel launched with the help of a ClickFunnels 2 Club coach. But that's not all you're going to be receiving. You're also going to be getting some incredible bonuses when you upgrade, including a physical copy of the 30-Day Summit book, where we're putting together all of the 30-day plans written by all of the 32 Club winners on this summit. You're also going to be getting unlimited access to the interview that you just saw with John, as well as, of course, all of the other speakers on this event. And you're going to be getting, now this is my favorite part, a second interview that I have recorded with every single speaker on the summit, where they're taking me behind the scenes and actually showing me via screen share how it is that they have set up their award-winning 2 Club funnels. The value inside of those videos is absolutely out of this world, and I don't want you to miss out on that. So make sure that you click the button on this page to check out the One Funnel Away Challenge and to sign up and upgrade today. John, one more time, thank you so much for being a part of this summit. It's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thanks, Bailey.